Yeah, it is. It is remarkable to see it.
Might recall as well from the last flight, so the altitude starts sinking reasonably quickly, which it is at the moment, and then as there's more atmosphere, the Starship can actually start to use lift to stop its descent, not stop its descent, but slow its descent, so it can skim along the top of the atmosphere and wipe off as much velocity as it can before it actually drops into the thicker part of the atmosphere. And what we're seeing now is actually plasma from quite high in altitude. At this point, you see that the speed isn't dropping that fast, just ever so slightly. As it starts getting down towards the 45 kilometer mark, it'll start rapidly depleting, and that's when the real forces start hitting those grid fins and the small, intricate little curves that come up through each area. So hopefully, this double thick heat shield is going to treat us much better than the last time we watched this. 26,000 kilometers an hour we're moving at the moment. So, we haven't knocked off a lot yet.
It's not over until the upper stage sings.
Absolutely. So what we were hoping to not see is tinges of green. Like we were seeing tinges of green quite early on in the entry last time, and that's sort of a sign that there's copper going missing or any number of parts of alloys going missing. So we're hoping to sort of see a fairly clean pink hue for a lot of this, I believe.
Yeah, so far the integrity of the ship is still holding strong and now 71 kilometers in altitude and descending.
That double view there is something I don't think we've seen quite before. We've got a mirror of one of the flaps there.
Yeah, having both run simultaneously is, I think, going to be, really interesting to watch since we were seeing at a pretty close-up angle the breakup of part of the flap there last time. So hopefully we're not seeing any plasma pierce through that flap again this time. But I obviously want to stress this is a test flight. That's why SpaceX is launching and doing these missions to be able to gauge where they are and where they still need to go.
Yeah. I'm intrigued about why we see those little bursts of sort of flame sort of erupt all of a sudden and then they disappear. Um, I'm not sure exactly what causes that. I'd love to know because we saw this in the last few flights as well. I don't. It doesn't seem like it's moving the fins in any way to sort of generate that effect. But every now and then you just get this little burst. I don't know if it's just a pocket of slightly thicker atmosphere or what's going on there. It's looking beautifully smooth right now. We've lost a couple of thousand kilometers per hour down almost close to the 24,000 mark now, 69 kilometers in altitude.
Yeah,
You can sort of see the speeds dropping quite a bit quicker now.
I mean, you almost have to be just watching the telemetry data, the speedometer and the altitude monitor to really gauge motion, except for moments like that, because it's just such a smooth descent and it's such a consistent amount of plasma that's building up around it.
Could be that we're sort of seeing some discoloration in the steel there with the heat. The steel will sort of change to that sort of rainbow hue as soon as it starts heating up quite a bit. So that's all expected, of course. But
Yeah,
at the moment, everything holding beautifully. Look how it's hovering there. That's 69 kilometers. So it's just kind of sitting there. It's not dropping anymore. So it's going to wipe off a lot at this sort of altitude, a few kilometers underneath. And as soon as it doesn't quite have the speed to keep that lift, then it's going to start sinking quite quickly again. I love trying to understand this re-entry profile because it's quite unique. And the fact, as you say, the fact that we get to see all this, and I haven't seen the frame rate drop. I don't think we get to see all this because there's Starlink dishes on the vehicle pointing pointing upwards away from the plasma, and essentially the Starship is punching a gigantic hole through the atmosphere, letting that signal get out. Something that has never been done before, apart from with the previous Starlink missions. So, previous Starship missions, I should say. So this is something that still blows my mind. And Starlink it becomes stronger every week as they add more and more units to the shells. So it blows my mind that we can do this at the same time. And that's an amazing project of its own, right?
Certainly
It's just
is.
just
And
incredible what's changed over the past 5 years.
just want to note that SpaceX says that the ship upper stage is continuing on a nominal trajectory. So, in addition to visually looking good, it also is flying the path that SpaceX intended for it. So, that's a good update there from SpaceX now. 3 minutes 30 or 42 seconds counting into the mission.
See, we've only dropped 1 kilometer or 2 kilometers now since we last talked about it, and we've dropped another 1,000 kilometers per hour almost. So it can sort of hang up here and just slowly bleed off speed for quite a while. And every 1,000 kilometers it bleeds up here is a lot less energy when it hits the denser atmosphere below. So we're just starting to see the altitude drop a little faster again. Wow, that fin looks beautiful.
Yeah, to your earlier point, Marcus, I am very curious about the coloration on the flap that we're seeing on the right-hand side of your screen. If that's just a lighting effect of the plasma, or if that's a heat impact from the plasma itself, sort of how that's all playing together.
I'd really like to see a full screen view of the flap there, to be honest. I want to see that higher res view of it.
Yeah, it sounds like they're beginning to thermally condition the Raptor engines before they get ready to perform their landing burn now, nominally 10 minutes from now.
Yeah. Speed dropping really, really quick now. 61 kilometers. As soon as we sort of pass down through towards 50, it starts really coming off fast. Seeing some little sparks coming off, which can be an indicator of just some little pieces of metal getting hit. But they're hopefully just sort of, hard edges on various things.
Yeah, Marcus, I was trying to recall exactly when, as far as height elevation, where we really started to see the break apart of the flap there, the forward flap. Do you remember about what height it was when that really started to
It's
come
funny you
into
say
play?
that. I'm literally trying to find that right now because I think it was down around the 45 kilometer mark. I'm just trying to find it.
That sounds about right.
It might have been actually. It might have been right around here. I'm just scrubbing through. It looks like it was more like 55. So we're coming up to that point where if we were going to see the same burn through, it's going to happen right about now, ish.
Which is certainly
It's
a good
definitely a
sign
lot
of.
more energetic. I'm not seeing any green though. We were seeing bursts of green in the last one earlier on, and I'm not seeing that this time.
Yeah, and we just heard that max heating has occurred, that the vehicle is passing through max Q.
Oh, look, there's another flap area there. Couple of angles, 3 angles there. Don't see any
That's
burn through anywhere.
it almost looks like a mirror image.
Yeah.
Fascinating.
Peak heating.
Yeah, the fact that they didn't lose really any frame rates during peak heating is, again, another testament to something else SpaceX is trying to exemplify, which is the stalwartness of the Starlink system that they've got on board this Starship flight. Now 55 kilometers in altitude, speed about to pass below 15,000 kilometers per hour. T plus 58 minutes, 14 seconds and counting into this mission on the SpaceX feed. T plus 58 minutes, 29 seconds.
There's a bit of a bright spot there on the flap in front of us. Hopefully it'll hold through okay. I mean, it's going to be quite normal for things to heat up to glowing temperatures, so hopefully we don't see a burn through. It's looking a little bit burn through there, though. I think that forward flap might be going.
The one at the top of the screen,
yeah, that's definitely burned through, I think.
There does seem to be a little bit of heat coming through the middle of that flap. See those two pockets of orange glow.
Yeah, definitely.
Oh, yep.
That's definitely not what they wanted there. But I mean, it's holding together better. But there's going to need to be work done there. Obviously, it's a hard part of the vehicle because you're trying to have all the actuators doing their thing whilst having it fully shielded. See the back, the aft flaps don't seem to be suffering the same thing. So the forward flaps must be tricky. And this is why they've moved them, right? So the Block 2 Starship, those flaps have moved. So this probably is a problem that's already fixed in a future vehicle, right? So I think they kind of expect this. They've probably beefed this up, obviously, because it's doing better. But there's certainly room for improvement there.
Marcus, key in on that point. How different are the forward flaps on the version 2 Starship than what we're seeing fly right now?
Well, they're actually moved more towards the leeward side of the vehicle, so they're not quite in harm's way exactly where they are right now. So if you sort of imagine, they just shift more towards the silver side of the vehicle, the unshielded side of the vehicle. So that's going to help, and they're also just designed slightly differently. They've got a slight different profile on them, so hopefully that'll help. I mean, they're holding up a lot better. We're down under 8,000 kilometers per hour at this point, down under 40 kilometers in altitude. So, they are starting to toast right up there right now, though. Aft flaps looking great, and the heat shield in general is looking pretty good.
Vehicles pass through maximum entry dynamic pressure now with just about 7,000 kilometers to go, a little more than an hour into flight. And as we've been talking, we're seeing some noticeable, even more so, burn through of that forward flap. But hopefully, as we're thinking possibly the body of the vehicle as well, though we're watching to see any additional signs for that.
Yeah, I mean, some burn through there, but I mean, the last ones, the fins were basically hanging off at this point, so a certain improvement. And hopefully the actuators and all the mechanisms inside that flap are still working. I'm assuming that the other flap was probably in a similar condition. They'd be fairly uniform. We wasn't seeing the other flap, so...
Yeah, but you have to imagine that that's more than likely the case.
I'd say so. The forces would be pretty uniform over the whole thing. It'd be interesting to see what the camera views look like at this point. And I imagine, even though there was burn through, nothing was hanging off. The aerodynamics should have been holding up pretty good. The shielding on it seemed pretty good right through from the other angles.
Yeah.
It's obviously dark on this side of the world. This is closer to me coming in here now. For me, it's like 12:30 past midnight, so quite dark on this side of the planet as it comes in close to Western Australia.
Yeah, just given the trajectory and where it's set to splash down, would it be bright enough if you were on the like the actual coastline of Western Australia to be able to see any of this, or is it just too far off for
It's
cameras or
still a long
telescopes?
way out. Yeah, it's still a long way out. I have to sort of see how far out from the coastline it is, but yeah, maybe you'd be able to see a little sign of it from high up. Um, there's
Looks
the
like we've
flap.
got
There's an aft
some
flap
views back.
there. Yeah, it's just dark, I think.
Yeah. Vehicle's now subsonic, now 1 hour, 3 minutes, 11 seconds into flight. We're coming up on the landing flip in the next 2 minutes.
It's amazing how slowly it drops at this point. Like it's really almost floating in the atmosphere, gently down when you sort of really look at that. Look at the speed drop. Like it's just almost hanging there. It's barely dropping at all.
Performing the belly flop maneuver,
Yep, coming down horizontally.
standing by for the flip, and then the landing burn.
Yeah, you'll actually see the speed just almost stop there, almost stop in its descent. So you can see why it needs such little fuel to land, because it comes right down to 500 kilometers per hour compared to the booster, which comes down much, much faster.
Exactly.
500 kph right there. Oh, geez, I want to see an engine camera.
We're just listening into SpaceX commentator just here for an update.
So the high altitude campaign, that's the unique thing about how Starship comes back. So we've bled off pretty much all of the speed we're going to. We're essentially at terminal velocity.
Starship is
Vehicle
at
remains on
and
target
then
at this
remains on
point
target.
for SpaceX commentator on the loop.
Five to go.
Yeah,
Coming up
I
soon.
imagine
Landing
they're
burn.
much more precise in the
Yep.
control looks really nice.
Cruising into the landing flip and the landing burn here in the next several seconds. This should all happen very quickly. We've got views of this.
1 kilometer.
Approaching landing burn startup.
And here we go.
When the Raptor engines ignite,
I think that
if we are
altitude
unable to see
readout
that
needs some work.
illumination ourselves.
It sort of hits zero
Landing burn
well
startup.
before when it starts burning. Look at that.
That's a nice reflection of the engine burn. And it looks like a correct orientation for a splashdown.
Beautiful. Oh my gosh, it's still got camera feed. It's... Wow. Oh, what have they got there? It just blew up. They've got a camera. They've got a boat out there.
Oh, wow.
Or a buoy or something. Wow. I want to see that. I want to see the camera from that.
I have to imagine that's a buoy. That they
Yeah,
would
it must
put
be, yeah.
a crewed boat that close to splashdown.
Oh, I thought there might have been an autonomous type vehicle out there of some sort.
But if you just think about, as Stephen was saying in my ear, the fact that they had an aquatic asset that close to where it's splashing down, and it's making its approach to it now, that tells you another point of data about just the sheer amount of accuracy that SpaceX has with this whole operation.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, that was exactly on target. They wouldn't be there otherwise. How about that? She's just broken in half. Look,
And the fact that
look.
we
You
still
can see the downcomer hanging out.
Wow.
So that's the pipeline feeding from the methane tank normally down into the aft section. So the aft section of the ship's just floating there, unless it's upside down and I'm looking at it the wrong way.
Well, you have to wonder now if this is in a position where they might be able to salvage any of the ship, given that they've got
Yeah,
eyes
well,
on it
you
so
never know.
definitively.
Geez, this has been quite the day. Apart from a little bit of burn through that they'll obviously improve with the already modified ship, this has just been a perfect mission.
Well, and just to note, as we're looking back at the orbital launch mount, you've still got the super heavy booster suspended as intended. So,
Yeah.
it's just been, I think, nothing short of a spectacular success of a day for SpaceX. And of course, NASA has to be both thoroughly impressed and very pleased with how this mission has performed, and what this portends for the Artemis program and the ability for SpaceX to continue making iterative steps towards the rapid reuse and the increased flight cadence that'll be necessary for an on-orbit propellant transfer demonstration.